Native American proverb goes, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. Keep this in mind as we discuss today the Glasgow Environment Summit and its insignificance given how much hype goes into those summits. My name is Dr. David Oualaalou.
And my name is Dr. Ross Stewart.
And you are watching Geopolitics in Conflict.
As we always start, we'd like to thank you for viewing. And we'd like to thank you for subscribing. And if you've not subscribed yet, help us reach our 70 million subscribers.
Indeed, Ross. So we truly call on you to subscribe if you have not done so already. And also we want to highlight just quickly here before we jump into the topic about our membership in the geopoliticsinconflict.com. Now, in that membership,
we have some very exciting members-only presentations that we're doing. One of them is a deep dive into Vladimir Putin's relationship with China. A lot that you don't know is going on.
Exactly. The other one will be, which we're going to be doing this weekend, about the hypersonic and what does it mean for the global security. What's interesting about that is we're gonna talk about the role of the UFOs into the shutting down of the nuclear facilities in the United States. And the other one has to do with the inevitable death of the US dollar. You know,
it's en route right now.
Exactly.
And from what we can tell, it's not stoppable. But we'd like to give you deep information about what's really happening there.
As a matter of fact, Ross, just to highlight this to our viewers, we're going to have a guest who knows a great deal about the financial markets. He's coming over on the show tomorrow. So we are excited about it. So to you, we want to say, if you have not checked our membership yet, please do so. Check it out, and we look forward to having you as our next member. And to all of you, we say thank you for your continued support. All right, let's get on our topic.
Big conference, UN, climate change in Glasgow, ongoing right now.
Yeah, with 400 planes flying into Glasgow, right? We're talking about the environment here, right?
We're talking about, this, and I find this hard to believe, 30,000 delegates.
Wow, yeah.
120 world leaders, and supposedly 100,000 protesters or demonstrators.
Yeah.
All into Glasgow.
Exactly.
Glasgow is surprisingly, Glasgow is a fairly big city.
Yeah.
It's almost 1.7 million.
Mm-hmm.
And we understand there might be a real climate crisis going on there with so much hot air being generated at the conference.
Well, there will be a lot of activities there. So, I mean, it's not, yes, we laugh sometimes. It's not a laughing matter because here is one of the arguments, you know. Rather than doing this, why didn't they conduct the gathering or the meeting online, you know, via Skype? You know, where is this technology? You know, why do you have to have 400 planes getting over there? Why do you have to have, at least for us in the United States, you know, with 85 cars for the convoy of the president? Why is all that for? If we are to talk about the environment, that's at least will be one of the first steps you start with.
Well, this must not be about the environment. There must be some other agenda going on.
Exactly. But today, Ross, just for our viewers to know, what we're going to do is we want to break it down as to why this kind of gatherings are insignificant. And we're going to provide some examples. We're going to highlight few countries when it comes down, for example, to the coal production.
Right.
And why, what the leaders of those countries might say will be different than what they might do. Two different things.
Absolutely, necessarily.
Exactly, because their economy depends on certain aspects.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before we delve into this, Ross, how about if we share with our viewers who did not attend the meeting? So you get Brazil.
President Xi did not come.
Yeah.
China is not there.
Russia.
But he did send a letter.
But here is the thing. I just found out that the delegate, the people in charge, whatever, they did not present his letter. Yeah, which I found very shocking. So he didn't want to attend to that, but he sent his statements, whatever, but they ignored it. So that tells you right there where I've already suspected that the blame is going to be shifted on China. As a matter of fact, just for you to know, the U.S. National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, already blamed China for what's going on with the environment. They've already...
Well, how did Vladimir Putin escape from this
Yeah.
condemnation?
Yeah.
Because he's not at the conference either.
No, Brazil didn't attend. The Pope didn't attend. Turkey didn't attend.
And I think Mexico didn't attend.
They didn't. Then you got South Africa didn't attend. And in the case of President of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, because his argument was, you guys not providing adequate security for me to go there. And, we can argue for or against, but it's his safety that he was concerned about that. Hey, if you're not going to provide security, why should I attend?
And from what we can tell with what's going on in the world, he might be in some real danger.
That's correct. That is correct. So I can see why his security team saying no. If Britain cannot or is incapable of providing security, we're not going to attend. But this is beyond that. It goes beyond just, as we said earlier, the idea of understanding. For example, in the case of India, in the case of Australia, in the case of China, in the case of South Africa, whatever countries we might want to talk about. The coal production, because that's constitute one of the key cornerstone of what this debate is all about. So
maybe I could give people some statistics here.
Certainly.
When we were preparing for this, doing a deep dive into the information, I came up with some interesting statistics. China produces almost 4 billion cubic tons of coal. I didn't even know there was that much on the whole planet.
It is, yeah.
And their coal production is up almost 4.5% from last year. Yeah. India, 756 million metric tons of coal, down less than 0.5%, but is down slightly.
Yeah.
The U.S., actually, 640 million tons, down 7%.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the U.S., before you continue on Dawah, Ross, if I may. And by the way, we will provide you with the link at the bottom of the description where we get these stats from. The U.S. production of coal has increased between 20 and 21 by about 12%. And between 21 and 22, they are expecting an increase by 5%.
Oh, that's huge.
So it tells you right there, despite what we hear about the coal production cutting down from, because the U.S. will say to other countries, you need to cut this, you need to cut that. Well, how come we are not doing it ourselves? You can't be telling others what to do if you are not doing it. You can't be a model for others if you are not doing the work yourself. That's just like common sense. How can you be telling other countries what to do and you're not doing it?
Unless your main theme is hypocrisy.
Oh, well, isn't what this gatherings is all about? You think about it logically. Can you imagine, Ross, the amount of money that is wasted on this get-together?
Well, what we see is the Paris Accords are a shocking failure, practically in every category.
Yeah.
And now we have this similar group of people coming together in Glasgow, and can we expect anything different? In a few minutes, we're going to look at why this is happening.
Exactly.
And how tough it is.
You're right. And this is why, as a matter of fact, it was a conversation now that when, what's his name, the Prime Minister, the head of the government in Australia, Morrison,
yes.
Wanted to address some world leaders there. They kind of looked down to the ground. They didn't even want to, because their argument probably they were realizing, oh, is he going to lie to us? And why am I saying this? Because I want to highlight one key point. I listened to his speech about how Australia is going to be committed to cutting emission by 2060. Well, I mean, let's face it. I got some stats here also, Ross, about Australia. How much electricity they produce from coal. That was back a couple of years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. They produce over 60%. Australia is considered one of the top in coal production. So for Morrison to be saying to the Aussies, hey, we're going to cut down emission, that's nonsense.
Where are they going to get the energy?
Yeah, it's nonsense, given how much Australia, and they did export, given how much Australia, the huge amount of coal they export to the whole Asia and some other markets. The same arguments can be made for India. Do you think India's going to cut down any production of coal?
Well, if they do, there's a very significant consequence. People are going to go hungry. Industries are going to shut down. Power is going to be dramatically reduced. They don't have much of an alternative at this particular moment.
No.
They've got to rely on the coal, and they're producing a whole slug of it.
Yeah.
I mean, really a lot.
Well, even in one of the research that I conducted, Russ, I found that a country like Botswana, back in 2015 or 2016, they produced about 90% electricity from coal. That tells you right there. So what basically is going to end up being is the game of the big boys telling the small little ones, hey, don't sort of pollute the environment because we don't want you. But we can do it because we are the big boys on the block.
It doesn't stop. I ran into some information I really wanted to share with our viewers.
Sure.
About China.
Mm-hmm.
The share of coal in the energy mix declined drastically during the last decade, falling from 80% in 2010 to 58% in 2019, with green technologies making up the rest.
Oh. Well, this is why China is considering other alternatives. And one of them is the nuclear, because it's cleaner.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, there is a risk with it, but it's far cleaner. And China seems to be making some progress on that front. I personally am still looking into that to understand it. That's not my area. So, and if something I don't know, I tend to say I don't know because I don't. And I'm trying to find out more about how they go in about it, and we're going to do a video on that.
You know, I've been following this pretty closely for 40 years now.
Wow.
And one of the things that is not being put out for people is, what is the impact of coal as opposed to nuclear energy?
Mm-hmm.
Coal has a small fraction of radioactive material in it. And the more you burn it, that radioactive material is spread out over the environment. Wow. And so the dangers of coal are at least as significant as a nuclear reactor.
Wow.
I mean, how come that's not in the news?
I know, we don't hear much about it. So when you consider what you just said, Ross, when you take that into consideration as far as India, as far as Australia, China to a degree, because at least maybe this is why China is moving into that direction of using nuclear power instead. France has moved into that direction because they realized it's much better.
Well, France is really a world leader in terms of nuclear energy.
Yeah. But this environment issue is not limited only to coal, because we're looking at it right here at home when it comes down, for example, to agriculture.
Oh, yeah.
We all noticed the changes that's going on with the, I mean, I haven't, if you think about it the last 30 years or so, did I ever seen a big strawberry that is this big? It's not supposed to be. I mean, now you look at even the chickens that look so...
They're big, plump.
It's not supposed to be. Well, in the case of the agricultural aspects of it, you look at for the cows, for example, they're being fed corn. Well, cows are not supposed to eat corn.
One of the things they get is high fructose corn syrup and fiber that their systems are not designed for. And one of the net effects of that is a shockingly high level of methane, an environmental destroyer. Is a byproduct of feeding the cattle corn cobs.
So is that why we're hearing now the methane, the word coming out of the mouth of the world leaders, a reduction of methane? That's what. Oh, this has to do, Russ, with the meatless ground beef or something like that Bill Gates been pushing?
I can't even go there.
I know.
Just as an aside, my father grew up on a farm, and we had some land and we farmed it. We grew our own strawberries. They used to taste really good, but they were small.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, just to go back to our conversation regarding this environment stuff. I mean, what I found very hypocritical is that you get a gathering like this, okay, and you got the big player dictating to the small countries, well, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, and we go and do it. Well, who gives us the right to dictate to other countries how to do it? Yes, the environment is for all of us. But at the same time, everybody should be responsible. You don't just pinpoint at one particular country. And what I found very sort of unproductive, especially in the statement of the U.S. National Security Advisor, by already shifting the blame to China. Does China use coal? Yes, they do. It's a big country. What do you expect? But at the same time, you don't shift the blame on one country. And we're not defending China here. We're just saying what's pragmatic, what's realistic. How come you didn't hear about that when it comes down to India? How come you didn't hear that about that when it comes
Isn't that a good question?
Yeah. How come you didn't hear that about Australia? So the U.S., and this is where it becomes that double standards. We can't be saying one thing and doing another. What you say versus what you do. And this is where the credibility of the United States has already reached the bottom, per se.
When you take a look at the economic impact of reduction of the use of coal, can we ask any country to stop using it?
I don't see that happening.
I don't see it happening either.
I don't see it. No matter what you hear on this final communique or statements, coming joint statements by the members or whatever, no matter what you hear, the best example is the Paris Accord.
Yes.
No matter what you hear, you look at, and here is what I'm going to bring some back history into the conversation here. How come the world, the West, that is, didn't react when Japan dumped polluted water into the ocean? Those are nuclear waste.
And that was a horrific event.
And did we hear much about it? We didn't. So why not?
Yeah.
And that becomes the question. You can have one standard for one country and another standard for another. Even this UN gathering in Glasgow, whatever, I just found out this morning. It was another statement that was released by the UN regarding the Tigray. This is a separate conversation altogether, but just to highlight to you. Tigray is in the fight that's going on in Ethiopia right now, and the UN saying, they are committing war crimes. Well, hold on a second. How come the UN, didn't say that about Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, the war crimes they committed in Yemen against the defenseless Yemenis? So how come you have one standard for one country and another standard for another? It just doesn't make sense. And you realize, where's the credibility of the UN in all this? None.
It's
Zero.
lost.
Yeah. UN is toothless anyway. We all know this reality, regardless what you hear. And this is why this Glasgow summit, it sounds great. The advertisement for it is great. 400 planes flying to Glasgow. Britain thinking, oh my God. But does it have any substance?
Here's the killer of this.
Yeah.
It should have some substance. The reason is environmental change, no matter what the cause, is a really serious event. And when we take a look at the ocean temperatures going up 1.5 degrees, there are land masses, there are islands that disappear because of the rising levels. If it goes up 3 degrees, the prediction is that life on the planet is extinguished.
Wow.
So, is this a serious issue?
Yeah.
But and then have these people going and presenting just hot air, knowing full well that the economic impact would tragically harm their economies.
Yeah. Well, this is why the comments that came after Morrison of Australia stated that he's going to cut down emission to zero by 2060. Even scientists within Australia themselves, they came forward as like, what are you talking about? What are you lying to us for? What sounds great, Australia is going to cut emission. And when I'm picking on Australia here, that's just an example. Narendra Modi is no different. His speech at the gathering here was like that India's going to do this and do that. Scientists inside India saying, this is not real. They can't achieve that. It just doesn't make any sense. This is why they push the deadline from 2060 to 2070. Actually, from 2050 to 2070. So it tells you right there. As you suggest, as you said, and you're rightly so, Ross, the idea that those leaders will have to think in terms of the economy. In the case of India, for example, in the case of Australia, cutting down the coal production, that means cutting down jobs, impacting the economy.
Where are they going to get the equivalent of 76 million metric tons of coal? Where are they going to get the equivalency for that?
Yeah. Well, in the case of China, because they used to import a lot from Australia, they turned it into Indonesia. Now the coal in Indonesia, based on what I read, it's dirty. It's not a good quality per se. I don't know. I am not a chemist. I don't understand that kind of stuff. But all I understand is that now China is importing more from Indonesia, which is more business for Indonesia to up its economy.
And a lot less business for Australia.
Yeah. And as we all remember with our guest that we had, Hussein Askari, he talked to us about the corruption that's going on in Indonesia. So something like this, exporting coal to China, can at least revamp their economy and move that country forward, whatever it needs to be. So,
would you say that there's a general statement that we can share with our viewers that talks about the significance of this Glasgow conference?
I don't know. I really don't know, because I've been following this kind of events, not only on this aspect, but on the different ones. You talk about the armaments, for example. You talk about whatever that is. And sometimes when I read the final statement or the final communique, and you say to yourself, well, I hope they can live up to the standards. And the last example that I could think of is the Paris Accord, 2015. And here it is. They talk, by 2020 we need to do A, B, C, and D. Nothing has been done. Now they're talking about by 2030 we're going to do A, B, and C. I don't see that happening.
2030 is only 8 years away.
Yeah.
And are we seeing any dramatic technology that's going to come along and save the day?
It's a lip service, and this is why I do see the wisdom of the Native Americans, as we disclosed in the quotes.
Oh yeah.
We borrow the land from our children, not from our ancestors. So that's usually what I see. So the bottom line, at least for me, Ross, all this hypes about the Glasgow stuff, it's nothing but a smoke screen. Because when you get some key leaders didn't attend, that tells you about the failure of that summit.
Especially who those leaders are.
Yes. Yeah.
Honest, we're doing our best.
Yeah.
We're really going to make a difference. Sure you are.
Yeah. But also, Russ, it tells you right there also how the world is shifting. When you get key players like Russia, China, Brazil, they are not attending, Turkey and all that stuff, that tells you just where the world is headed. And this is why we always focus on the idea of the geopolitical shift. Because geopolitical shift is not tied only to politics.
Right.
It ties to economics, it ties to the environment, it ties to space, it ties to whatever. Speaking of space, I just find out that China has kicked the U.S. out from their International Space Station. We will talk about that on a special session for that one. So that's the bottom line. The bottom line to me is does this summit amount to something? And the answer to me is no.
And for me as well. Well, we'd like to thank you for viewing. We can't encourage you enough to subscribe and to become a member.
Indeed, because our membership is very, very important. This is where we can talk openly, and you all know why. And as always, stay informed. Till next time. Bye-bye.